Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please take your seats, we're going to start the show shortly. Thank you. Thank you. Please take your seats. I now introduce to you the Hobart Pop Warner Cheerleaders. Hey Josh, I was born in a small town.
I was born in that same small town, city.
We've seen it all in this small town.
I've had a blast in this small town.
I bet you have.
Hey, we'll never forget where we come from.
How could we with all that purple and gold everywhere?
Look around at all these people's faces. They're wondering what the heck they're doing in Hobart.
Should we tell them where we really are?
You mean that we properly pronounce it Hobart?
Well, yes, there's that.
So everyone, welcome to Hobart.
Well, let's get this show started.
Sounds good to me. Live from Hobart. Welcome to Your Mother 2021. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think there's a couple of gentlemen out here. I'm Josh Huddleston, third generation Bricky and a Hobart City Councilman. I will be your MC tonight. Wow, do we have a great show for you. With a plethora of motherhood topics being discussed this evening, you're sure to laugh, cry, and everything in between. So make sure you get those tissues ready. As you know, a portion of tonight's show proceeds will be donated to Building Brickies. Building Brickies. In addition to that, there's already been $1,600 raised from the online auction for building brickies. So at this time, I will introduce Deanne and Jeanette to the stage to discuss the mission of the Building Bricky program.
Good evening. It is such an excitement for me to be here this evening celebrating one of my favorite things, mothers. It has been my privilege to work with so many moms here in the School City of Hobart District. I wanted to just tell you just real briefly about what it is that you're supporting tonight about Building Brickies. You know, tonight is all about stories. And there are so many stories I could tell you. For example, I could tell you about the hundreds of kids who've had developmental screenings and got early intervention services like speech and occupational therapy and all the things that they need to get them ready long before they get to kindergarten. I can tell you stories about resources, about parents who are struggling to get the food that they needed for the tables at their home, and how we were able to connect them to the food pantry and then help them find other services and eventually even get education that they needed and then get connected to jobs. And so now they're self-supporting. I can tell you stories about the thousands of brand new books that we've been able to give to children and build their libraries. Because we know that the number one most important thing for a child being successful in school is how much they're read to when they're little. I would tell you stories about parents who are sleepless at night because their child literally won't go to sleep. And I know there are many of you who have lived this, right? And then we've been there to help support them, help them figure out how to get that baby to sleep and how to get some sleep for themselves as well. But most importantly, what I want to tell you about Building Brickies is that we do listen to mothers. Just like we're going to listen tonight, the most important thing that we can do is to listen to people's stories. Because when people are listened to, it's life-changing. They feel known, they feel heard, and as a result, we are all changed. And we believe that every parent here in the School City of Hobart should be empowered to be their child's first and best teacher, so that every child here in our community can be listened to as well. So thank you for being here tonight, for supporting us, for listening to me for a moment. I'm so excited we can listen to all these mothers here together.
Thanks, Deanne. At this time, I would like to welcome our producer, director, Carrie Bagwell, to the podium to share some important information regarding the show. Carrie?
Good evening, and thank you all so much for coming, especially in the midst of a pandemic. We truly appreciate you. And I'd like to thank our sponsors this evening, because without them, we could not have the show. Ideas in Motion Media, we give them a clap. Sugarfield Flowers, Photographic Reality, Woman to Woman and Mom to Mom magazines. There are copies of those out in the foyer if you'd like a copy. AMA Design and Prints, and of course the NWI Times, who are currently live streaming our events, so we truly appreciate them. And our megaphone sponsors, Harvest Time Pumpkin Patch, Spare Room Studios, and Scott Miller, real estate broker with Berkshire Hathaway HS Executive Realty. And thank you additionally to our swag bag sponsors. I know Danya's here, but if you're part of that group, thank you. evening, we hope that you'll find a story that resonates with you and that you can identify with. And the cast will be in the back area of the theater after the show if you'd like to chat with one of us. So thanks so much, and I welcome Josh back to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Who's ready to get started here? Nelson Mandela once said, "My family is very large, 42 million. Petty Cowser grew up in a big family, although not quite 42 million. 9 to be exact. Could you imagine being a mom to 9 children? Wow. I want to welcome Patty to the podium reading 7 of 9 as she pays tribute to her amazing mother. Patty?
Depending on your age, in an era of reality television, you may have watched an episode or 2 of the TV show that featured a big family. Think The Waltons, Brady Bunch, 8 is Enough, Step by Step, or The Cosby Show. In those shows, the parents were outnumbered and the audience reveled in episode after episode that featured the parents attempting to manage their gaggle of children, and by the end of each episode, the issue was resolved and tied up in a pretty neat bow. But was that how did that show how a large family was? When I mention reality TV, I should probably mention that I grew up in a family of 9 children. I am number 7. My parents should have stopped when they reached perfection. But no, they added 2 children to the brood after my birth. What nerve. Much like TV moms, Mom Walton and Mrs. Brady, my mom worked at home raising a family and was always there for us kids, except when she was having babies. One of my first memories was her saying she was going to the hospital, and when she would return home, she would have a little present for us. As it turned out, my sister was born the day after Christmas, and when my mom returned home, she brought her home in a stocking. I remember thinking, well, this isn't a present. It's another sibling. Yay, one more sister. Unlike Carol Brady, my mom had 6 girls. Can you imagine 2 Marcias, 2 Jans, or 2 Cindys? Not good. My older sister was definitely a Marcia. We remember how Marcia was. The next oldest sister, were not Jan or Cindy. They were more like the older sister from the Cosby, Sandra, the insanely smart one, and the Brady cousin Oliver, who came on the scene just to keep the show going. One thing about the sitcoms is that you never saw the mom go grocery shopping. Imagine shopping for a family of 11. Can you imagine the groceries and the bills for all that food? I bet those sitcom moms never had to, but my mom spent hours cutting her coupons, going to Eagle, her favorite grocery store, and stocking up of a plethora of groceries that would, if we were lucky, last a week. I don't think I ever heard her complain about going grocery shopping. I do weekly. It's probably because it was her only chance to get out of the house for a few hours, while we starved waiting for her. There were a few things that she would buy, and one of our favorite was cereal. She would buy what seemed like 10 boxes a week. My mom used to have to cut my brother off after 5 bowls. He loved his cereal. Those boxes came in handy, too, if one of us were mad at our siblings or they were mad at me, which was usually every day. Every morning, if you were lucky, you'd be the first one down, you'd take the cereal boxes, and you'd build a fort around you. This way, you didn't have to look at the person you're mad at, or vice versa. But sometimes, I would look over my fort, click my tongue, and give him the stink eye. As long as we weren't fighting, my mom would pretty much leave us alone because she knew in a couple hours we would get along, and we usually did. Another era in which the sitcom moms were never portrayed realistically is how they disciplined. Although Claire Huxtable possessed some sass, the other moms would simply ground or talk to their children in a calming manner. My mom was a strong, silent type. Although she rarely raised her voice or got mad, but when she did, you knew you were in trouble. That or when she used your full name. Patricia Ann DiCrispino, the dreaded middle name. She rarely spanked us, but when she did, it was with a wooden spoon. I am a wooden spoon survivor. One time, she broke the wooden spoon on my sister's bottom, and we thought that was the end of that. We had a goodbye wooden spoon party. It was great. Until she came home with a bigger and stronger one. Like many moms on TV, my mom always made our birthdays special. She would ask what we wanted for our dinner and make our favorite cake. My choice for birthday dinner was always beef stew, yellow cake with yellow icing. Even though my family never really liked my pick, she usually would make it. Sorry, fam. Although sometimes we got a glimpse of sitcom families sharing dinner together, dinner time was big in my house. My mom cooked every night, and we ate at 5:30 on the dot. My mom is a great cook, and there weren't many meals she made that I didn't like, except for spaghetti. Ugh. Because I detested them. Ugh. The rule was, if you were not at school function, you ate with the family, or you did not eat dinner at all. To avoid eating spaghetti, I would go across the street to my best friend's house and wait for dinner to be over. When I would see my dad through the window in his seat, I knew it was safe to come home. In the kitchen, my mom would have a bowl of just meat from the sauce that we would eat. She never wanted her kids to be hungry, and by kids I mean 9 plus all our friends. Being a mom has made me appreciate all she did for me and my siblings. Unlike television shows, life often was tough for a large family. I may have been number 7 out of 9, but she always made me feel like number 1. Well, most of the time. I was a teenager once. Now that would be great reality television.
9 children. We actually here in Hobart just passed an ordinance that you can't have more than 3. Or at least that's what I tell my wife. Wow, tough crowd tonight. Oh, dogs? No more than 3 dogs. Oh, I thought it was children. Sorry. All right. The moments surrounding the birth of one's child are supposed to be happy and a time to celebrate. This is not the case for Stephanie Trendowski, who nearly lost her life to preeclampsia. And at this time, I would like to welcome, let's start this. And then in Moving Mountains for Moms, Stephanie shares how a near-fatal life experience motivates her to be the voice for the care that mothers deserve. Stephanie?
How's everybody doing? So I'm going to start off, I shouldn't be here. Not that I shouldn't be here with you beautiful people, obviously, but statistically I shouldn't have survived. What should have been the happiest day of my life turned into the most terrifying. I had a high blood pressure of 190s over 117, stroke range, lack of energy, edema, serous retinal detachment in both eyes. I was legally blind. I tried to tell medical staff that something was wrong, but they sent me home from not 1, but 2 local emergency rooms. I won't say who. They sent me to an ophthalmologist. I begged and pleaded to be readmitted, but there was not one medical professional that seemed concerned with my alarming conditions. Why was I, a mother who had just given birth to her rainbow baby, I should be basking in the joy of finally being a mom, having to advocate for myself? My daughter was born premature, and I was very sick. I was in no position to be a warrior in this moment. And finally, after begging, I was readmitted, and a hospitalist listened to my concerns. I was diagnosed with HELLP syndrome. HELLP syndrome stands for hemolysis, elevated liver enzymes, and low platelets. So in layman's terms, my body was shutting down after birth. Fact, 700 women die in the United States each year during pregnancy or in the first year following pregnancy. Fact, 60% of these deaths are preventable. Fact, the United States spends more on health care per capita than any other country and is the only industrialized nation that sees a rise in maternal mortality rates. What's going on here? So why does this matter? Because you either have a mother, you are a mother, or you know a mother. I know deep down in my soul that I survived for a reason, and I was determined to find my purpose. I began volunteering with hospital projects, attending conferences on preeclampsia, and connecting with survivors and advocates literally all over the world. In May of 2019, I found myself standing beside 150 other women and a few men, advocating for legislation on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Surreal is the only word I can use to describe that experience. Although we felt moments of triumph, we also experienced flashes of what we call survivor's guilt. Why did we survive when so many didn't? Why were their husbands there holding their wives' pictures, their girlfriends' pictures, instead of them standing next to them? It was time to enact change in this arena of maternal health. As I stood on the steps of the nation's capital, a quote came to my mind that will stick with me forever. You have been assigned this mountain to show others it can be moved. So I came home and I got to work. Before I knew it, I was writing articles for global publications, like Love What Matters. Women were reaching out to me from Australia, Africa, the UK, literally all over the world, simply because I had used what we call my mom voice. And it encouraged them to do the same. After learning that Indiana had the 3rd highest maternal mortality rate and the 7th highest infant mortality rate in the nation, my mission was obviously clear. I had made the congressional connections, but I didn't stop there. Next, I made connections with our state and House representatives, senators, local hospital administration, department heads, CEOs. I requested meetings not to criticize, but to express the desire for positive change, bridging the gaps and saving lives. The next thing I knew, I was getting a call from the governor's healthcare policy writer, inviting me to share my story with the state health commissioner. I'm proud to tell you that changes are being made here in the Hoosier State, and that we are rolling out programs such as the Indiana OB Navigator Program, the Indiana Perinatal Quality Improvement Collaborative with the new Hypertensive Toolkit, in which I am one of the authors, and proclamations actually naming May the month of the mother. An organization I work with, Mom Congress, is stressing the importance of the commitment to lowering maternal mortality, and I'm so happy to be a part of that. The moral of this story is don't give up. Fight for change. I've had people tell me it couldn't be done, and if someone tells you no, or that it can't be done, go after it 10 times harder. Don't ever let anyone tell you how to tell your story. Own it. Your story matters. You matter. It's raw, it's real, and it just may become someone's survival guide through the darkness. Remember to no longer stay silent, and don't shrink yourself to make someone else feel comfortable. Be unstoppable, not because you lack failures and doubts, we all do, but because you continue despite of them. Most of all, trust your gut, and together we shall move mountains for moms. Thank you.
Well, Stephanie, Nothing is more powerful than a mother on a mission. They can conquer the world and maybe even move mountains. So, all right. Being a mother isn't always easy, especially when you are a young mom who finds herself in a sticky situation. When life gets tough, moms get tougher, as Melissa Huffman can attest. In her piece, One Tough Mama, Melissa recounts her past and how she overcame adversity to be a strong mom she is today. So, Melissa?
Thank goodness for 72-point font. I don't need reading glasses, nope. All right, so my piece is titled One Tough Mother. Growing up, we don't always understand our parents, their actions, their choices, or anything about them for that matter. When I was a little girl, I know I did not understand why I was privy to so many adult situations or why I had to carry such a great deal of adult issues on my teeny, child-sized shoulders. With this, I carried resentment, anger, and frustration that made me wish I had a different life, different parents, different everything. After my parents divorced, my dad would leave a few years later when I was 9, and I wouldn't see him again until I was 21. And then pretty much after that, not at all. It's funny how a little girl with daddy issues perceives life at a young age. My mom was really strict, tough, and held very high expectations of me. As a single mom of 2 young children, she had to work constantly to support our family. So many times, even at 9 or 10 years old, I was the babysitter, caregiver, cook, and maid of the house. Some days it was just too much. I just wanted to be a youngster and carefree. I dreamed that an old rich man would adopt me, like my idol Punky Brewster. LOL. If you are too young to know who that is, Google it. Despite my mother's sternness and my disdain for being charged with our household duties, at 17, bam, I found myself pregnant and petrified. Yes, I was looking for an escape. But what the hell did I do? I grew up cooking and cleaning and babysitting, and now I'm gonna have a baby of my own? No thank you. But little did I know my tough upbringing and the strength my mother inadvertently instilled in me, which as a child seemed like a living hell sometimes, had actually prepared me for the journey I was about to embark on. As it turned out, my son's father was verbally and physically abusive, and I endured that nightmare beginning at the age of 16 until I left when I was 32 years old. I was so determined to leave my mom's when I was pregnant and make things work that I endured that relationship, hid the abuse, and created a false image of my life. Why? Ego, pride, and mostly stupidity. You see, growing up, I never considered myself strong or confident, and while I was entangled with my son's dad, I was absolutely not in the mindset of loving myself, let alone thinking I had choices or any type of self-worth. But as an adult, the day that I decided I had had enough, and that my son and I were going to remove ourselves from that situation, I realized something. My tough, strict, bad mamma jamma of a mom had treated and raised me the only way she knew how. She did the best she could with what she had. Now, my mom didn't always go about life in the best manner. Definitely wasn't June Cleaver, but more like Roseanne. You get the picture. But I know now and understand she had a huge responsibility in front of her. She raised 2 kids alone, had to make sure we had food and clothes. She didn't have time to be as cheerful and involved as I wanted her to be. She was too busy worrying about paying the bills and making ends meet. And while she wasn't the sweet, loving mother most people would desire, her instinct to do all she could to make sure we survived was her approach to showing love. The same love I showed my son when I left his dad. As I grew older and became more assertive and less tolerant of people and things that did not serve me, I realized where that strength and power came from, my mom. The perseverance and incredible power she showed me as a little girl that I was just too young to see, understand, or appreciate is what helped me persevere through the tough moments in my life and make me who I am today. One tough mama. Mom, from one tough mama to another, thank you.
It takes one tough mama to open up and be vulnerable like that. A lot of women stay in relationships that maybe they shouldn't. So it takes a lot of courage. But who was that guy you told me to Google? I'm a little too young for that guy. Alrighty. It's a girl. She said this guy. Oh, sorry. I really need Google. Too young. Alrighty. Our director and producer, Carrie Bagwell, has been a mom for the past 20 years. The last 7 to a human. In For Real, Carrie discusses the stigma behind those that deem themselves fur parents and how her dog prepared her to be the mom she is today. Carrie?
I'm not going to be able to read over that mic. Okay. How you guys doing so far? Great. Okay. So before I was a mom, like a real mom, as some would say, you know, like to a human, I was a dog mom. Or as some of us prefer to be called, fur mom, for many years. I've only been a mom to a human for the past 7. There were many Mother's Days that I received gifts from my dogs wrapped in tinfoil because we all know they can't fold wrapping paper or tape a package together because they have paws, not hands. But that paw doesn't hesitate to hold your hand during your most unsavory moments in life or dance paw to hand with you in celebration on their hind legs to, sing it with me, who let the dogs out, who, who. A parent is defined as a protector or guardian, which pet parents are, yet there's a whole conglomerate of disbelievers who think us faux parents delusional and act as if they have some upper hand on us because they have human children. But we pet parents know that's not true because, well, we've got dog hair all over our clothes to prove it. And it's the same people who chastise us when tragedy strikes and our beloved little Genevieve, Draper, or Bellatrix. You know that legit dog parents that have a scruffy Buddy or Cookie around the house passes away and they behave like we haven't just lost an important member of our family. Hello, it's not just a dog. Over the years, I've hosted elaborate birthday parties for my dogs. Clifford, Blue's Clues, Scooby-Doo party decorations, treat bags for both humans and canine guests, and, of course, a cat piñata. Oh, and cat parents, don't get too comfy in your seats because people are judging you as well. Did you know there's a whole psychological study that claims much can be told about our likes and dislikes by whether we choose to parent a cat or a dog? Did you know? So, apparently, cat people often prefer reading, gardening, and writing, whereas dog parents enjoy more lively activities in their free time, sports, yoga, dancing, and apparently our fur parenting choice also helps determine the types of movies we like. The experts claim that our kitty-loving people tend to prefer indie films and documentaries, while us dog people are more likely to spend the night watching a horror action movie. And get this, dog parents parents are twice as likely to work in a financial field and tend to earn a heftier salary than those who think themselves cat lovers, who tend to be more creative. So you know what this bibliophile, flower-growing, writer, creative type who paints horror and action films, and as a teacher who works 5 jobs to make ends meet, has just discovered? I'm supposed to be a frickin' cat mom! No way. Team Rover all the way. Over the years, I've been a mom to 5 pups, all labs in varying shades of yellow, brown, and black. 3 of who are now waiting for me just over Rainbow Bridge. You can't tell me the love I felt or feel for them wasn't real, or that I took parenting them any less seriously than I do my human child. If anything, they prepared me for the mom I am today. By the time I became a mom to my human child, I was already used to the morning wake-ups, the endless feedings, the cleaning of the poo and other accidents. We went for walks, a belt on a leash instead of a stroller. To my faithful companions, Hampton, Sammy, and Haley, who now stand guard from above, and Huck and Henley, who protect Bedwell Manor, thank you for the parenting tricks you taught me. So call me crazy, delusional, foe, but I became a mom the moment those first set of paws clicked and clacked across our hardwood floors. Even as I parent my human, I'll always be, first and foremost, a dog mom. And I've got fur on my clothes to prove it. Sorry, Miss Jackson, I am for real.
For real. Where my dog lovers at? Woo! I would say cat, but you guys are at home reading books, so. Whoa, all right, where's my cat lovers at? Well, all right, fair enough. Alrighty. Valentine Torres grew up in a large family of strong Puerto Rican women and was raised in a culture in which everyone around here's grandmothers, aunts, etc. pitched in to raise kids. And everyone is a mom. Valentine shares the unique bond that women in her family share. Valentine?
How's everyone doing? Here I am. I chose the little fonts as well. So my piece is called Everyone is a Mother. Growing up, I assumed every woman I met was a mom. Why? Because I was always surrounded by strong, independent women, generations of them. And they were all mother figures. My mom, abuelas, and all 9 of my tias. When you grew up in a Puerto Rican Latina household, your parents' female first cousins are your tia primas, and they mother you as well. Everyone in our close circle had permission to keep me and the other children in check. Many of these women were parenting on their own, but you would never have known it based on the community they had created. I went through a crash course in motherhood at the age of 10 when one of my tias and 2 of her teen daughters all became pregnant at the same time. Yes, literally, one nephew is older than his uncle. In the span of 3 years, those 3 ladies had 6 babies. So there I was with my mom, my abuela, and my cousins as we mothered all of those kids. We changed diapers, we made bottles, we checked their temperatures, we learned how to warm baby food, rocking babies to sleep, and learning how to entertain them, and really understanding how many tasks were involved when it came to taking care of a baby and multiple babies at once. It truly took our village of mothers to give the care and love that all children deserve. I became a mother at the first time in 2006. My firstborn came into this world weighing in at 9 pounds and 1 ounce. And yeah, it was a natural birth as well. Even more of a surprise, he was a redhead. In 2009, my daughter arrived so bright and light, and when her hair grew out, it was full of curls. My son Felix is now 14, and my daughter Liliana is 11. She acts like she's 14. Bonus, I am also blessed to be a mother to a daughter named Analia, who came into my life in 2011 and who is now going to be 18 years old. As a third-generation single mother, after divorcing my once-upon-a-time husband, I had no doubt I could handle any situation that came my way. Not only did I have great role models, but a group of strong women that had my back. When people ask me why I'm so independent, I explain to them that I was raised by women who had no other option but to survive not only for themselves, but for their children, and they excelled at it. So many moms have an impact on me, and my goal in life is to pay it forward with love. If you are raising your children alone, I am here to tell you, you will be all right. I am a mom raised by moms, and I'm telling you, we've got you. Thank you.
I will say, I think there's some of the toughest women I know are single moms who play multiple roles as father and caretaker and playing catch, and I can't tell you how many times, yeah.
Since Josh was saying that, Josh has an amazing mom. Could we have her stand up for a minute, please?
All righty, thank you. Anyways, I think single moms are really tough, and it's a testament to a lot of the. Alrighty. In addition to our moms, we often identify with others in our lives as mother figures. For Carrie Abels, that special person was her grandmother. In 128, Carrie shares how our love for someone can transcend both space and time. Carrie?
This is for you, Granny. Give me a sign that you're here. I need you, a young woman whispers to the heavens in a maternity ward, waiting for her husband and the staff to descend upon her as she readies to deliver their first child, a girl. In that moment, the mother-to-be is engulfed with memories and hopes for validation, any sort of signal that the spirit of her beloved is with you and is there to share her joy. Her thoughts move to another baby girl born on January 28, 1921. 1/28/21. Jeanette Irene Carbine. Yes, she rhymes. Although there was no recorded earthquake that day, I think the devil shook a little bit in his shoes as she entered the world. She was the youngest of 4 children, nicknamed Babe, which stuck with her for life. If you were privy to her old high school records, you learned she wasn't always well behaved, a B in conduct, and was described as a hustler, which wasn't surprising, as in her adult life she was a trailblazer. After high school, she married George, and they made their home in Hobart when he returned home from World War II. She birthed 3 children over 14 years, giving life in 3 separate decades, the 40s, 50s, and 60s. In addition to the family she created with George, she cared for her other family members, including an intellectually disabled brother and her father after her mom passed away from cancer. She joined a Lutheran church, and Babe took it by storm. She was a God-fearing funeral luncheon planning committee organizing one-woman show. When it came to women gaining more influence in the church, she was the first to advocate for women's suffrage that gave women the opportunity to vote on church matters, be elders, and serve on committees other than funeral luncheons. She was the grandmother of 5 grandchildren, but only 1 girl, you guessed it. With a mom who worked full-time, I spent a great deal of my formative years in her care, and she was more than a grandma, but a second mom. She made me behave despite her B's in conduct. At any moment, I can recall being in her kitchen, surrounded by the smell of fruits and vegetables she was canning, running around her backyard as she hung clothes on the line. This woman was my world, and the lessons she taught me are a huge part of who I am today. As I grew older, our relationship changed, but we were very close. I still called her after school almost every day and was always free to drop in for a visit. She was the one I wanted to sit next to in the car when we went out to dinner. In college, she wrote to me almost every day. I have all of her letters, but I can't figure out an order to them. Monday, 1 o'clock, had a meeting at church. Then I went to the health club and Rosemary came over. Could be any given Monday. After the loss of my grandpa, I offered to move in with her, but having a 22-year-old roommate was an act of her for her social life and lifestyle. Then it happened in 2008. A small stroke in May, a bigger one in August that left her bedbound. I was at the house every day. Some days she was glad to see me. Other times she'd argue with me in an effort to get me to leave. One snowy day she asked me to give her a ride to church because I had things to do. Babe could not be stopped. Then came the last stroke, which put her in a coma for 8 days. On Tuesday, December 23rd, at 7:10 p.m., she slipped away surrounded by her family, a month shy of her 88th birthday. I remember some well-meaning people at the funeral telling me that she was with God now. My response was, I was greedy, and God knew it. I wanted her healthy and alive, and with me. During the last 8 days of her life, I said my last goodbyes a million times. I wrote a 6-page letter that I tucked in her coffin. Yet I still had more to say. We needed more time together. It just wasn't fair. I lost my grandma, but one of my best friends, my second mother, and my role model. She would never see me get married, run my first marathon, or meet her great-grandchild. Back in the hospital, I whispered, give me a sign, I need you. I had just given birth to my 6-pound, 15-ounce, precious gem, Ruby Jeanette Abels, in honor of my treasured grandma. My husband's on my left, my mom's on my right. I'm flanked by the 3 people who mean the world to me. The only one missing is her. The room is a flurry of activity, nurses, staff rushing in and out. One nurse reports to the other, delivery time, 1:28 p.m. My mom and I looked at each other and dissolved into tears. 1:28, my grandma's birthday. She was there, and this was my sign. I looked to the heavens and I whispered, thank you. Looking back, I never needed a sign because she is always here. If it's one thing I know, she's always, always here. Guiding me, directing me through life. Some days it's easier to recognize than others. If you're here, Granny, and I know you are, thank you. I always said I'd tell your story, our story, about a truly amazing woman and our bond that has transcended a lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie, for sharing that story. Do we have some grandmothers out there? I don't know if it's true, but I was told that you guys fill them up with sugar, the grandkids up with sugar, and send them back to their parents. Is that true? Alrighty. Sisters can be our best friends, our worst enemies. Jamie L. Talabani and Kelly McGuire know this firsthand. And sister moms, they share how their relationship has evolved over time and how they Where's that?
We're here!
Wow, this is perfect.
In 2003, Belgian psychologists published a report that stated, firstborns tend to be responsible, competitive, and conventional, whereas laterborns have to distinguish themselves and create a specific niche by being playful, cooperative, and especially rebellious. Hi guys, I'm Jamie, and I'm your responsible, competitive, and conventional big sister.
Hi, I'm Kel, and I distinguished myself.
We're the oldest 2 of 4 kids. The babies in the family came later. We were each other's first playmates.
And first enemies.
She crawled across the floor with a Fisher-Price googly-eyed before her first birthday.
But she took my toy.
We spent the next 18 years moving and fighting, fighting, moving, moving, and fighting some more.
There were some notable arguments, but the years were a blur of hair pulling, name calling, blackmailing, and lots of tears.
There were some glimpses, though, of our future. Movies we quoted together, late-night whispers, solidarity regarding the absolute unfairness of our curfew.
But mostly, we wasted those years competing, as sisters do.
As we grew up and moved out, our mom, who has somehow gotten through life without a sister, hoped that we would finally recognize the gift we had in a woman to go through life with.
Instead, I kept distinguishing myself.
And I kept making sure Mom and Dad knew I was responsible, conventional, and should obviously be at the top of the will.
We're both competitive, stubborn, and always right, even when we're both wrong.
You can see why things were tricky.
But then,
I was young, married, barely a college graduate, and ready to finally relax and live it up after surviving nursing school. And I had a surprise positive pregnancy test. I told my husband Sean, but next, despite the years of animosity, the very next person I wanted to tell was my sister, and I told her on our way home from church.
I drove us right off the road.
She actually did, and I loved her for it.
That baby, her biggest surprise, led to our best surprise, each other. For the first time, we loved something more than we wanted to win against each other. He was the first son, the first nephew, the first grandbaby. An entire village went absolutely bananas for him, but nobody more than me.
She's right. That baby was overloved from the moment we knew he existed, but especially by Aunt Kel. And then, just a few short years later, he guarded the rings so Aunt Kel could walk down the aisle. And shortly after that,
I got nervous and needed to know, would using a shot glass to hold my pee affect the results of a pregnancy test?
the answer was no. And suddenly, I finally got to feel it from the other side. This Aunt Love, named after me, her first baby is nervous and kind and silly and responsible. He's my mini-me, and I adore him. I stood outside the hospital nursery and sobbed watching him wash his too big head while I felt his cousin kick me in the ribs.
Just a few months later, she went into labor, and I watched both of our number ones at home while she gave birth to my mini-me, who was also constantly distinguishing himself. Somehow, though, we've got lucky enough to practically parent each other.
I was terrified, as new to two moms are, that I couldn't possibly love two babies as much as I loved one, and that a brother would leave my firstborn desperate for attention. So I handed my firstborn to my sister, the one I knew would love him silly that day we changed his little world with a brother. She did. Soon after that, Kel had 3 more babies in 2 years.
Yes, another biological son and twins via adoption.
I waited at home with all the other kids each time, making posters that said welcome home, throwing meals in the freezer, and buying matching jammies.
You know that saying, it takes a village? Ours lives on the same block. I moved across the street from our parents, and she moved in just around the corner.
For a real notable 3 months, we all lived in the same house.
We have weathered adoptions,
Autism,
postpartum depression,
the end of Game of Thrones,
the beginning of puberty,
regular old depression,
power outages,
kindergarten photos,
pandemic anxiety,
and multiple moves together.
need 15 minutes out of the house just to breathe? Meet me at mine. We'll walk the dog, and if it's bad enough, I'll throw some sippy cup or some wine in a sippy cup for you.
Husband working his third double, I'll loan you mine for the boys' jiu-jitsu practice.
Babysitter canceled last minute? I got you, girl.
The point is, somehow our babies changed us, the way babies do. But the shift into motherhood was also a shift into sisterhood for us both.
And now, here we are, intentionally living a stone's throw away from each other to raise our crazy pack of kids together. So together, in fact, that my youngest called his Uncle Sean other dad for too long.
It isn't just about the kids. I'm forever thankful that my boys have another mom looking out for them the way that moms do, but I'm more thankful that I have a sister looking out for me.
That built-in best friend that our mom kept telling us that we do have that now.
We missed the first years, but we're making up for it these days.
And we have big plans for when this pack of kids ditches us into the retirement home.
Together.
What's up? All right, they give me hope. I got 3 kids at home and they fight all the time, so there's hope. It'll end up like that, so thank you. All righty. Bennett Gallivan has always been fun mom who let her son skip a day of school for an experimental learning day with her. Over the years, their adventures have been epic. Now, Bennett's son Max, aka Bubby, is all grown up and turns the tables on mom. In Bubby and Bennett, she shares her latest adventure. Bennett?
The itch would sometimes start with a weather forecast or an ad for a movie. Sometimes all it took was that look of longing when we were driving by a toy store. It was that adventure look. It was time for a Bubby and Bennett day. When Bubby was little, I worked more hours than my husband Paul and had more restrictions on my time. Paul was the one who got to go on field trips and be the room parent, even be the person who was called when he had a fever. Once I got home, we were a team, but there were definitely times when I was off limits working on a project at home late at night. I felt guilty, and I missed my kid. So after a very large project was completed, I had some comp time. It started easily enough, just wishing I could spend some time with my kindergartner. And it ended with the first of many, many lies. Round trips, as my husband would call them. Bobby, what would you want to do today if you could do anything? Go to school. Okay. Now, imagine school's closed. What do you want to do? Pokemon. Okay. Ice cream. Okay. Movies. Park. Okay. Yeah, check. So the agenda was set. The next step was the phone call. Hello, thank you for calling Malcolm X Elementary. How can I help you? Oh, I'm sorry, Bubby is sick today. He won't be in. Meanwhile, I'm praying he won't hear me on the phone, because more than one potential Bubby and Bennett day was ruined by him going, but I'm fine. Pulling out of the carport was also part of the fun. We would have to drive past his school to get to our adventures. So it was time to play duck, duck. No Bubby, seriously, duck. Blocks away from the school, we could start to relax. We could dream, we could play. We bought large boxes of popcorn, went on movie marathons. We searched for the greatest playgrounds. We ate enough sushi to make a sumo wrestler sick. We bought Pokemon cards in Chinatown, went to museums on Mondays. As he got older, we searched for the best used video games, and we bought shirts with sarcastic sayings. On the ride home, though, we had to complete our play. Bubby, what did you do today? Have fun. No, Bubby. If someone asks, what did you do today? Drank ginger ale and throwed up. Excellent. See, I'm an attendance secretary now, and I can tell you, nobody wants to hear about vomit or diarrhea. It's the only thing he needed to say. As he got a little older, he might throw in a cough or a sniffle, but truthfully, vomit does the trick. To those who are harmed by the fact that my child can look you straight in the eye and lie, I apologize. But you know, this is not a story of good parenting or no, it's of kinship and deception. When we moved from Indiana from California, these Bubby and Bennett days, they became more important. Those first couple of years made those some of the best days. He hadn't found his people yet. So sometimes talking to me at the end of a Bubby and Bennett day, I knew his feelings and his fears. Sometimes Bubby and Bennett days were the highlight of the semester. As he got older, he found new friends and started to be a typical teenager. Bubby and Bennett days became less of a day and more of a stolen afternoon. No longer able to pull him out of classes in high school, it was a rare Sunday morning or a parent-teacher conference. It was usually a movie his dad didn't want to see or a chance to go buy him shoes. Though they continued into college and beyond, these days became few and far between. We still see a ton of movies, and just the two of us, and we still won't turn down a shopping trip. But we hadn't had a real adventure in years, until that changed in December 2019. When we opened our presents on solstice night, I received the ultimate Bubby and Bennett adventure, an invitation to go to Disney, to Galaxy's Edge, the new Star Wars experience. It's a bit of a backstory. I love Star Wars. I loved it since I was 6 years old, and I passed that love on to my child. We were there together for every Star Wars movie. We have Disney Plus, so we can watch and rewatch all of the movies and The Mandalorian. And you know, he had Wookiees when he was a kid. He wanted to be a Jedi Knight. Oh, it's been my dream since I heard about this Star Wars park to sit in the Oga's Cantina and drink with aliens. Well, and I wanted to do that for my birthday, which was coming up. It was my 50th. But between med school graduation, family weddings, and other commitments, I put those dreams away. I couldn't really afford to take a trip. But Bubby, who was set to graduate from med school and move to Louisville to start residency, decided to take care of this. His future was about to be working 80 hours a week for the next 5 years. He's way too responsible to call off work, and it wouldn't be right to visit without Paul, so this was going to be our last big hurrah. I imagined, how could we do this? The roles reversed. How would he call me off work? Hello, this is Maryville High School. How can I help you? Hi, this is Dr. Gallivan. I need to call my mom off of school. She's experienced signs of dehydration due to hypermesis and gastroenteritis. Excuse me? Oh, that's vomiting. Okay. Luckily, we had a 3-day weekend, so he didn't have to. He didn't have to lie this time, but it did still kind of feel like sneaking out. We were giddy. It was an adventure. Talk about tables being turned. My frugal child, who would sometimes beg not to spend too much money, dropped cash on a handmade lightsaber, a droid, talking cubes, and the greatest meal we had ever had. We dressed like smugglers and scoundrels in Batu. We drank blue milk and walked until my legs went numb. We also drank every single alcoholic drink that was available in the cantina, and we hid from stormtroopers. At the end of the days of the Magic Cantina and Star Wars, Animal Kingdom, and food, and way too many cocktails, I decided to wax poetic about the fact that this might be our last Max and Mommy, Buffy and Bennett Day. I brought up it might be our last special adventure. I think I actually saw a surprised Pikachu face. But he sees the writings on the wall. Soon, he would be far away. He'll get married, have kids, and Bubby and I just won't be able to take off. But for now, I can remember the good times while I wait for my grandkids. Maybe a Babette or a Booby and Bennett days in my future. As I wait, I hear the calls as an attendance secretary, listening for a faint giggle, hoping that sometime, somewhere, there's a call that's also an adventure.
I am super jealous of Bubby. Bubby, I'm super jealous of you. I always had to run the thermometer under the hot water to try to make my temperature go up just to show you off school. Your mom was calling you off. That's super cool. Alrighty. Times editor Mark Chase and his wife hope to expand their family. Eventually, they were blessed via adoption, not once, but twice. In Dear Birth Mom, he shares his gratitude to the woman who blessed his family with 2 beautiful children. Mark?
I know this will come as a shock to many of you, but I am not a mother. But I'd appreciate it if you'd listen to me anyway. Your mom voice rings out in my household day after day and year after year, even though you're not actually here projected. On so many mornings, a curly-haired 6-year-old boy with Polar Express blanket trailing behind him wakes me to start the day. The request is usually cinnamon bread, grapes, and a deep conversation about dinosaurs with his best pal over breakfast. A few minutes later, an 8-year-old girl, sleepiness still in her eyes, will shout, "Oh, Daddy!" I owe it to you, their birth mother, whose voice rings crystal clear in my conscience every day. If I could, I would deliver these words in person, thanking you beyond measure for the little girl, our daughter Izzy, who you blessed us with 8 years ago this coming June. I also would lavish upon you heartfelt praise for the little boy, our son Aiden, who you added to the Chase family ranks during the February deep freeze of 2015. But you're not here, so these written words will have to do. You are the central reason my wife and I can celebrate our 2 youngest children. I've told so many people, countless readers and radio listeners, about the beautiful daughter and son you chose to add to my family through adoption. But this audience knows so very little about you. Many of them don't know about the very adult decision you, then a teenage girl, made in 2012 to seek an adoption plan and a better life for the little girl, now our daughter Izzy, who you were then carrying in your womb. When you reached out to us again in August 2014, it was a complete surprise to parents who believed their family was complete. The little boy you were carrying needed a home, and you chose us. It was the surprise pregnancy my wife and I could never have experienced without your second selfless decision to forge a new adoption plan. We think about you often, knowing full well that one day our little ones will become curious and want to know more about you. Adoption will be celebrated, and it will be a necessary topic of discussion in our household. We've always known there may even come a day when your daughter and son wish to meet you, perhaps to satiate a curiosity unquenchable by our words alone. You met our little Izzy when you were pregnant with Aiden for the first time since her birth, but she was far too young then to understand who you were. Izzy still has no idea how much love and opportunity in her life is attributable directly to you, but she will. She certainly will. We're forever grateful for the trust you placed in us to be mom and dad to these beyond beautiful children. There is no greater treasure that can be entrusted in another than the lives of children. Now I must ask you, wherever you are, to trust us again. You see, we were so very shocked when we learned shortly after Aiden's birth that you were gone. A vehicle accident took you from us, and it's something for which we could never prepare. Someday, when my youngest children long to know you, please trust that we will find a way to make that happen. even though your person is no longer here. Please know that the wondrous gifts you made to our family have sealed this promise for all time. You asked us to love, protect, and nurture 2 children because you weren't sure you could do so. On that point, you were wrong. Though you're dead and gone, we're still listening to you, doing those things you entrusted us to do. Your children are listening to their birth mother every day, even if they don't know it. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you, Mark. Mother-in-laws always get a bad rap. Jeremy Lerner states, a car is like a mother-in-law. If you let it, it will rule your life. In Mother-in-law, Mary Lou Colley discusses her relationship with her husband's mother and how it's evolved over years. Mary Lou.
Mothers-in-law. The fact that the term alone conjures up negative images says a lot. Interesting factoid. The IRS considers your in-laws your relatives for life. You can divorce your spouse, but not your in-laws. When they told us that in tax class, there was a huge rush of groans across the classroom. The only thing that everyone in that class ever agreed on was, that does not seem right. I myself have had 2 mother-in-laws. Always been a bit of a comparison shopper. My first mother-in-law was the classic, you married my baby and I do not want to let him go. This mother-in-law character is something that is always missed when little girls are playing dress-up wedding. No one ever says, I want to play the mother-in-law. I did have a male friend that frequently volunteered to be the bride. Funny now how that worked out. But no one ever said, please, please, let me be the mother-in-law. And then proceeded to grab the make-believe groom's ankles and be dragged down the aisle. Actually, I don't even remember the term ever coming up. Were we not told of in-laws as children? Was it too scary? Maybe. Although my first mother-in-law did think the world of me and was very proud that her son was marrying me, I was a quiet, good Catholic girl who was active in church, didn't drink, didn't smoke, good student in school. However, there was just one problem. She just didn't want to let him go. And she didn't want to live alone. And she cried a lot. She cried on holidays. She cried at doctor's appointments. Although I don't think I realized it at the time, there was a teaching lesson here. Cry, and you do cry alone. It was very hard to get to know her, and I only have one real memory with her. At the time, I had just begun dating her son, and she was making Polish pastry, which requires the beating of egg whites to very, very high peaks. It was only her and I sitting in her kitchen, and we were casually chatting, getting to know each other, and I thought she was sharing the recipe with me. I was excited, but I didn't realize it was actually a test. This many years later, I honestly don't know if I passed or not. She had beaten the egg whites to what I would say were medium firm peaks. I wouldn't have called them stiff, and she turned to me, and this normally motherly voice turned into interrogative homicide detective. Are these stiff enough? Her eyes glued to me, staring a hole through my tiny 18-year-old body. I think I quivered as I answered. And it was tough to answer. I thought they should probably be higher, but what if those were the best peaks she could make? Would I be insulting her? Suddenly, I felt my whole future life depending on this answer. Finally, I think I got a yes, with 20 question marks following it. No, it should be stiffer, she answered, and continued with the process. No other words were spoken until she arrived at the perfect peaks and pointed at them. I was married to her son for 20 years, and I still really only remember that one conversation. Now, when I met my second mother-in-law, I was still the quiet, good Catholic, albeit divorced, girl active in a church that didn't drink and didn't smoke. I was feeling pretty confident to meet her. While her son had 4 children and a somewhat dramatic ex-wife, I was family-orientated and thrilled to meet the grandchildren. Surely she would consider me such a catch, right? Wrong. A Catholic girl active in her church is not high on the list of a rather strict Baptist. She probably would have been happier had her son brought home a woman of ill repute that she could save. It is very hard to save a Catholic. And then there was the aspect of her relationship with her 4 grandchildren. While her ex-daughter-in-law was finding her missed years, Pat, my next mother-in-law-to-be, had become their surrogate mom, so much more than their grandmother. She wasn't ready for an intruder, and I was definitely not her first choice. And Pat, who her youngest granddaughter refers to as filterless, could and would say anything. The daughter of a West Virginia coal miner who became a successful independent business owner with her husband, she was strong, she was bright, she made amazing crescent rolls, but she could be outspoken. This took some adjusting. I just wasn't prepared. But then, there were the similarities. We both loved the same people. We both wanted the best for all of them, sometimes different approaches. Slowly, she realized this, and while we might have worshipped in different buildings, we worshiped the same God. And we had long talks on long car rides going to weddings out east and graduations out west. Pat was as impulsive as I was slow to sometimes. We didn't get to each other, but instead of being at war over this, we ended up balancing each other out. And when she would whip my always smudged glasses off my face to clean them for me, which at first I found a little invasive in my face and my space, I just began to expect it. And now I miss it. I don't think we are prepared to like each other. Love each other, yes, but like each other? And it was the Christmas of 2017 when we were visiting, having a wonderful time with our balanced relationship, that she mentioned she had a doctor appointment for some stomach issues. We never saw it coming. Within a month, she was diagnosed with stage 4 uterine cancer. Of course, I went into support mode because that's what you do. And Pat and I prayed together. We both shared that faith and prayer in God. Our family fought for her to live. And when it became clear that we weren't going to get that, we tried to make the best of the last days. I had hopped up into the bed with her because she was already getting too weak to sit in the easy chair. And then being a little filterless myself, I might have learned something from her. I said, you know, you're my favorite mother-in-law. And she said, and you're my favorite daughter-in-law. And then she laughed. And she said, I guess that might not actually be much of a compliment. And so we both laughed, and we held hands. And then she said, you know, I didn't always know it, but you came into my life at exactly the right time. She died a month later. I remember her often. I have so many memories to choose from. Like the time we went to see Craig Ferguson live. I had no idea how blue his show was. I did not know, I swear, okay? And I was busy apologizing, and she said with this naughty little grin, I knew he would be like this. And you still wanted to come? I miss her. I miss her saying inappropriate things. I so miss my friend that she became. Maybe we weren't supposed to be friends, but we both gave it what it took. I miss her cleaning my glasses. I'm so glad that there are mothers-in-law. And next time my granddaughter plays wedding, I'm going to volunteer to be the mother-in-law.
The dreaded mother-in-law. There are all kinds of moms, but Melissa is definitely that mom. If you've been to her children's parties, seen her Facebook posts, or elaborate photo shoots of her children, you know what I mean. With sparkle and sass, Melissa shares how she does motherhood on her terms. Melissa?
In my 6th trip around the sun as a mother, and my 40th as a regular human, I realized that I have graduated from being that girl to being that mom. I fully acknowledge my that girl status since I never found anything negative about being someone who loved glitter and sparkle and themed parties and room decor. And especially a well-put-together outfit, complete with hair and makeup. I mean, there's nothing wrong with wanting things to look amazing, right? Unfortunately, I have realized that there is a more negative connotation attached to being that mom. In a super judgy 2020, I found quite a few women who have been compelled to express their opinions on how other moms should raise, teach, and discipline their own children. These are not the women I have chosen to surround myself with. They are the ones who you simultaneously want to throat punch and crave for at the same time, but end up internalizing their comments and judging yourself. Yep, that mom. The one who took a super cute pregnancy announcement and gender reveal photos to post online. The one who proudly stood each week in front of the fireplace for the weekly bump pic, watching my sweet boys grow inside my womb. The one who planned newborn photo shoots and handmade crochet outfits because I wanted those experiences and memories. Melissa, that's such a waste of money. I could take pictures on my phone and charge you less. They are going to hate you for those naked butt pics. I look at these photos all of the time. My boys love seeing their baby pictures. Someday, those newborn photos of my sons in my father's red fire helmet will mean even more to me than they do today. So enjoy your pictures your way, because I love mine. Yep, that mom. I nursed my children from birth to 15 months. I was thankful that my body allowed me to do such an amazing thing for my sons. I pumped milk for them 3 times a day at work. Even when the principal yelled through the door at lunch, "Don't worry, I'm not coming in. I know what you're doing in there. Please check your email when you're done." I nursed through thrush and teething babies. It was what I wanted to do. I can't believe you pump at work like that. Breastfeeding was too exhausting for me. You should give it up. I didn't want to sacrifice my boobs. It was hard, it was exhausting. The experience that I had nourishing my children was the most amazing bond, and I was sad when it ended. It doesn't matter to me how you choose to feed your children. Don't shame me for how I choose. By the way, my boobs look excellent. Yep, I'm that mom. I spent my son's first birthday parties, themes, decorations, hall rental, smash cakes, oh, and matching mom and dad shirts too. It was amazing. And they were so happy to celebrate, mostly eat cake, and get loved on by our family and friends. You know they won't remember it. What a waste of money. Kids' parties are more about the parents than the kid. My boys absolutely love planning their parties. We select a theme and we order a few too many decorations. They still love the cake part. They get so excited when they see it all come together and light up when everybody serenades them as they blow out their candles. It's okay if you want to have a smaller, more intimate celebration with your children, but we're doing it our way. I love hearing them say, "Thank you, Mom and Dad, for the party. It was so much fun." They do remember the party. You get the gist. I'm that mom who lets her kids sleep in her bed. I'm that mom who considers goldfish and fruit snacks an acceptable meal on occasion. I'm that mom who dresses her kids in matching or coordinating outfits. I'm that mom who works out at 5 o'clock in the morning so I don't disrupt the family schedule. I'm that mom who takes her kids to church and talks about Jesus. I'm that mom who lets her kids drink pop. I'm that mom who watches her kids at the park. I'm that mom who helps out in the kids' classrooms and supports their teachers. I'm that mom who teaches kindness and respect, but also courage and defense. I'm that mom who will cut you out of my life if you cannot support my parenting and appreciate my son's huge hearts, Christian upbringing, and love of all 5 kajillion thousand million trees that I step on all the time. It has happened to all of us moms. We compare ourselves to others. We allow comments to bring us down. Comments both in person and the evil ones lurking on our Facebook walls. My oldest son just turned 7. I have entered a whole new phase of motherhood where I have decided I'm a good mom. I love my boys fiercely and will be gladly referred to as that mom as I encounter more of these mindless insults in my next trips around the sun. I loathe the women who need to say, "Well, we don't do that." Or, "If Henry's mom lets him eat that way," or, "That's because she's that mom." But I have come to realize that many of these comments are out of another woman's own lack of self-confidence as she compares herself to me. It's some twisted form of flattery. I will be that mom any day of the week. If it means that my boys are happy, healthy, respectful, kind, and so funny. They are only small for so long, and someday all I will have to appreciate those times are the memories and the photos that I spent all that money on. I am so glad I'm that mom.
I love it. My wife was that mom, and I got a lot of matching shirts for Disney, so I'm very happy. All right, I'll turn it over to Carrie.
Thank you all so much for coming this evening, and can we please give all the speakers a round of applause? It takes a lot of guts to come up on stage, and however, if you think, I can do that, or I want to do that, oh my goodness. Please reach out to us, and we'd be happy to have you audition for the cast next year. I thank you all for coming, and apparently Apparently I'm getting some flowers. Thank you.
Carrie, we'd all like to thank you for sticking it out on the 2020 reboot of the Your Mother Show. And we all appreciate everything you've done for us and any gray hairs that we may have given you across the past few months. But thank you very much. Everybody give Carrie a round of applause.
So Josh and Allie Boudreaux are going to help pass out flowers to the cast. If you'd like to stick around, again, we will be in the back. If someone's story resonated with you, tell them, they'll be happy to hear that. And again, thank you so much for coming, and we hope to see you in 2022.